The recent spate of killings in some parts of the country may have reduced considerably, but there are still safety concerns ahead of the 2019 general elections. Now, it came at a time a U.S. envoy, David Young, blamed it on impunity. But it's also a common knowledge that there are several internal military operations, with the one in Benue and Nasarawa Axis Operation Wellstroke regularly recording success stories. Now, the killings and the implication for the next year's election is the issue of discuss here on Inside Story this week. Thanks for joining us. Now, joining me this week is Raphael Ekpang, Chairman, FCT Correspondent, Chapel, Nigerian Union of Journalists, and Soni Daniels, Northern Region Editor for Vanguard newspaper. You're welcome.
Thank you.
It's nice having you. Now, starting off with you, let's start first with you, Soni Daniels. Now, do you think, as an editor now, do you think the federal government has done enough to stop the killings in some parts of northern Nigeria?
Well, I'm not in the military. I'm a common citizen of Nigeria, law-abiding. But I monitor events as they unfold. If we were to go by the actions, measures taken, put in place by the government as announced, then one would say that, okay, the government is doing something. But you know that as a political scientist has put it, the condition of man is a condition of war. That is what a political scientist has written. And you also know that what the government is trying to protect is also what the enemies of the government would want to destroy, all in a bid to ensure that the government is projected in a certain way, so that to give them a leeway, because politics is around the corner. I want to present this government in a certain way that Nigerians will see it as incompetent, incapable of protecting and defending, and even providing security for life and properties, which is the first obligation of any government. So government is putting its best foot forward. The forces at play would also try to stifle such efforts. It's not peculiar to Nigeria at all. Let nobody think or assume that, okay, what is happening in Nigeria is peculiar. No. And it is not even because, okay, now APC government is in power, PDP is opposition, we have 89 other political parties who are now warming up. No, all over the world. The condition of man, the condition of any government is a war situation. It is left for you to devise the strategy and means to ensure that the polity is preserved, the lives and properties of your people are protected, and it continues like that. There will not be any end. But you know that it peaks when we are very close to politics. It was not like this in 2005, it wasn't like this in 2006, but from 2017, it kicked off. And it will continue until after the election. Once somebody emerges as the president of Nigeria, as new governors, new ministers, the system will stabilize. It's not new.
Okay, now, over to Raphael now. Zamfara used to be relatively peaceful until a few years ago when we began to hear stories of bandits raiding villages. Now, in your own thoughts, how did we get here?
Well, it's a problem that every Nigerians, not only Nigerians, globally, it's a problem that everybody should own up to. Because it is not only the government or the people should be held responsible. It's a problem that's cut across everywhere. Like in Zamfara, you rightly mentioned, even in a Plateau state, Plateau used to be the home of peace in those days. But shortly, the early 2000s, a lot of things started happening in a Plateau state. Now talk of a Zamfara state. Zamfara has been very peaceful until recently. that there is a spate of killings in Zamfara. Even recently, a lot of people were killed. Where do we get there? It's the question all of us have been asking, especially as being a journalist. We have been writing on all those little crises, especially when the politics, this 2009 politics started, when PDP came into power. There were reports that people were empowering children, young ones with arms, empower them to threaten their opponents. And now it is no longer politicians threatening opponents with little guns or weapons of that nature, but it's something that has gone beyond the politicians. Now, if you talk about the religious aspect of it, it is there. The tribal aspect of it is there. In the 80s, I used to know where a community and other community used to fight because of land. When we are getting towards dry season, let me say October, November, there are crises everywhere. But in these days, it is no longer like that. It is from January to December. Why? Is it because of the politics? The question I keep asking myself, is it because of politics? If it is politics, then the crop of politicians we have now, we have to do away with them. Let the new politicians take over. Perhaps that will bring a solution to it. The government have been doing their best to curtail these killings from here to there. If what the media reports is true, that means the government is really working towards having this killing stop. But the government will say it will receive a report from the media, we will report it on our various media. The next day, it will happen. About how many days ago, like 14 days ago, there have never been a killing from anywhere. But as at yesterday or so, we heard of Boko Haram hitting in Maiduguri again. So, to me, I don't know where it's coming from, and we need to do something about it, especially the younger generation. You know, we have been used to kill ourselves. And it is time for us to rise against the killing by ourselves, to go for the leadership. Perhaps if we go for the leadership, we know how it is being done, the killings are being done, and if we are there, I think we can stop it.
Okay. Now, away from that, now back to you, Soni. Would it rather be fair now to describe the killers in the middle belt as herders or herdsmen, and tag those operating in Zamfara, Binigari as bandits?
Well, as a student of international journalism that I am, who are the people who brought this coinage? A professor of journalism, Professor Susan Mola, he's a professor in Pradesh University, I think that's in Germany. Mola in 1999 brought out 4 theories of reporting, and I will dwell on 2. The 4 which she brought out was 1, formulaic reporting, 2, sensationalism, 3, brandishing images, stereotypes, and number 4, using American connection in every reportage. Oh, the American government is angry. The American government has issued a statement. The Amnesty International is angry. They have brought a report. And this is our country, Nigeria. It has nothing to do with those countries. But you will see that at every point in time, we bring in what their opinions are, but they're not Nigerians. The way America is managing its affairs, they don't take into consideration the opinion and thinking of Nigeria and Nigerians. Now, you mentioned some people are being stereotyped, because that's what they call stereotyping. This side, oh, Fulani herdsmen. The other side, bandits. Who gave the classification, the coding? All of these, by who? Journalists. And that is why sometimes I say that part of the problems that Nigeria is grappling with are caused by journalists. Not because they have deliberately set out to cause such problems. It is completely unintended. These ones are bandits. These ones are Fulani herdsmen. And All those are creations of the media. Anybody who is killed today in the North Central is possibly, when you read the report, you hear that suspected Fulani herdsmen. And I've asked some of my reporters, were you close by the location where the killings took place? They said, no, sir. The people who killed, did they go there with herds? You saw them herding cattle, and from there they said no. But, you know, we just know. And somebody told us. I'm talking about live situation. None of them has told me that they saw. But he said, but that's the way it is. We believe that. That is it. Then you go to the Northwest. Every killing, bandits. Why not even say gunmen? Because they are gunmen. Unknown gunmen. They kill. But they have safely and tactically designated these people as bandits. So what's the difference between a bandit and a person who kills in the North Central? All creation of the media. And this has tended to give the impression that, oh, there are certain set of people who have been programmed by the system to kill in the North Central. And the other people who are killing, they are just from the bush. This is not helpful for a country that is already gripped by religious, tribal, political killings.
Okay, now, with what you've just said now, how do you think journalists should report the killings?
Right. There are codes of practice of journalism. One of the smallest books I've read about journalism is called Elements of Journalism. It was written by two people, Bill Kovach and Tom Rosenshell. It's a small book. And two things they say that really make sense to me. They say in that book that journalism's first obligation, underline obligation, is to the truth. Truth. The second thing is that journalists' first responsibility is to the community. That is, the people who reports about. Not to pander to the interests and well-being of political, economic, social, religious, tribal players. But unfortunately, because of the way the media is structured in Nigeria, you see that reportage is skewed to meet the interests and dictations of political, economic, and financial actors. That is why we are having this kind of stereotyping reporting in Nigeria. It must change. Because in that same book by Bill Kovach, they admonish journalists not to engage in journalism of assertion, but to engage in journalism of verification. If we interrogate issues without bias, we would get to the truth and report it the way it is. If at any point you are in doubt, what does the code of practice say? You leave it out. But we don't. My MD is interested in that story. My political leader, my governor, my senator. So we write it, completely asserting what has not happened. All in a bid to please those who own the political, economic structures, and even the medium in which we are reporting for. That is the dilemma in which Nigeria has found itself.
Okay, now back to you, Raphael. With everything he has just said, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah.
Talking about how journalists report.
I think it's all boiled down to investigative journalism.
Okay.
You know, because before you can unearth the truth in every given situation, you must find out what is behind what. What is really happening where you think something is happening. And that has to do with investigative journalism. Are we still practicing investigative journalism in Nigeria? No. Like you mentioned, scare cows. There are places that journalists don't go. A lot of journalists, I don't know whether I call it a laziness or what. A lot of journalists now prefer to write what the minister says, what the DG says, what the president says, than what actually happened. In every event, there are stories behind stories. If there is a killing in Zamfara, maybe yesterday or tomorrow, an investigative journalist will take his or her time to investigate what was the cause of that killing, who actually perpetuated that. By the time you find out, you will not give it the name that it really is. You can't speculate. You won't say bandit,
Suspected
or suspected headmen, or this and that. No, it is not done like that. You need to know. Don't rush into the media to publish your story. You know, a lot of people, I think the problem is, a lot of media want to take first. We are the first to break the story. And you break a wrong angle of the story. So when an investigation journalist comes in, it will go under. You find out, yeah, there was a killing. Who killed who? What happened? Before you could answer this question, how does it happen? You should be able to know where the killing is coming from. Then you hit the nail on the head. You just hit it. You won't say suspected. If by the time you see people say suspected, definitely something is wrong somewhere. Sure. That is why we need to encourage investigative journalism. If we are into investigative journalism, look, Bigman says there are 4 theories of journalism. Developmental journalism. I think Nigeria, as we are, that is where we belong. Developmental journalism. We don't do libertarian journalism or authoritarian journalism. We should be molding our own country. We are still at the stage to mold our country. If there is something wrong somewhere, we have to find out exactly what it is and let the people know what it is, so that they should have informed opinions, informed ideas about what has actually happened. So if we enhance investigative journalism, I think we'll be getting things right in Nigeria.
Okay, now back to you, Soni. Now, has the Northern Region editor for Vanguard newspaper now, have you had cause to turn down reports in recent times in national interest?
Yes, and of course, I'm saying this on the national television. I am properly guided. I was trained here in Nigeria and in Britain. And I've seen and I've read what international journalists do. Well, we are not as big, as rich as maybe New York Times, Washington Post, The Guardian, The Telegraph, Daily Mail, and all of that. But as far as a story passes through my table, we must try to get it right. I've not seen any story that we publish and tomorrow through me, and then they say, okay, oh, we are sorry, it was fake news. No. And there are many that I stopped that the following day they will call me and say, thank you, you did well. We didn't publish that story. I'll give you an example. About a month ago, there was a story floated by one of the online media that they have removed the tribunal, the chairman of the tribunal, the Code of Conduct Tribunal. You saw the story. It was floated. Everybody ran. So, and then they named a judge from the FCT High Court as the replacement. And I checked. It was fake. We did not use it. Some others, they printed, they ran online. The following day, they printed. But it's fake. I removed it and saved my newspaper from the embarrassment. Because once you run fake news, the likelihood is that the image and the level of believability of the audience is reduced in their medium. They say, who published it? And unfortunately, one of the most respected newspapers in this country printed that story. And when they discovered, they had to first yank it off from the website. If you Google the story now, it's error 404. So I do check to ensure that we do the right thing. We need to inform the people rightly. If we deceive the people, we have failed in our key function of social responsibility, which is one of the reasons why the permission is given to your medium to operate, either on the airwaves. They have even given you a spectrum to operate. They have given us the license. It is based on the hope and expectation that we would do the right thing in the overall interests of the people we serve. Once we fail them, we don't have any reason to hold on to our licenses. They should take them. And that's why I was listening to the national president of the NUJ a few days ago on a national program too. And they gave the list of journalists in quote, because I put them in quotes. Oh, this journalist has been in detention. This journalist was arrested. And I did not hear the national president read to me from the database of the NUJ, the list, the way those journalists were listed as members of the NUJ, the year they graduated from secondary school, the year they graduated from college, either College of Education or Polytechnic or from the university, the day they were admitted as members of NUJ, when they were licensed, and their numbers, we don't have. We are just creating a refuge, a colony for frustrated people who have failed in their professions, and then they have come to take refuge under a loose entity called journalism. We don't have qualified people to practice the way it is. And one of the reasons why we're having problems in journalism is that quacks have overtaken the system. Then somebody can tell you now that I'm the managing director and editor-in-chief of my medium, and you ask him, what is the name? They will mention the name, you will laugh. It doesn't exist. But they are also key players in NUJ, in Guild of Editors, and everywhere. It's a shame. It does not happen like that. Anyway, there is a limit to which we can continue to deceive ourselves. We must sanitize so that the issue of fake news will go. The issue of fake journalists will disappear. And then you will be able to say, I'm a journalist in Nigeria. Then you hold your head high. Now, what's the difference? You go to the university and get PhD, journalism. Somebody finishes from maybe secondary school and begin to go about. He sleeps in the NUJ center. There's no difference. They say they are journalists, or in fact, they say pressmen. The teacher of journalism is a pressman. The person who is hanging around the system is a pressman. He knows what I'm talking about. And it's a shame. We must be able to say, when they mention his name or they mention my name, we should check, as lawyers do, doctors, accountants, they will check the database. He was called to the bar in 1804. He's either English bar or Nigerian bar. Okay, this accountant, his number is this, pharmacy is this, surveyor this. They have a database. Where is that of journalists? We don't have. And that is where the problem is creeping in largely. We must stop it.
Okay, thank you. Now back to you, Raphael. Now let's go back to our farmers' headers crisis now. Would you agree with the Jonathan and Buhari administration that ranching is the solution to the crisis?
Well, if you ask me the solution to the crisis, maybe between the herders and, in quote, the herders and the farmer, I would say no. Absolutely no. The problem we have in insecurity in Nigeria is not the ranches. It is the porous border we have. In Nigeria, we have more than 90-something borders. And it is only about 2 or 3 that people knows. Cross River State alone, we have up to 15 borders. But it is only a cock that is in a two local government. Only one borders that people know about. What of in the northern area of the country? There are a lot of porous borders that we have. That is where the problem lies. It is not ranches. By the time we have a government that will put in place borders, will block the porous borders, then create only legally or genuine borders. You will see that a lot of these herdsmen or herders coming into Nigerians who are they will just bust into one route from where, bust into the country, stayed in the country, move from one place to another, cause mayhem. By the time we have borders, proper borders, it will check insecurity in Nigeria. All these ranches, whether you create ranches or ranches, who want to create ranches? The herders, they are businessmen. Just like somebody who is trading on tomatoes. Some are trading on salad, banana. They are all businessmen. So if a herder wants to own a ranch, he go to anywhere he is. Maybe it's in Cross River State. Approach the government of Cross River State. They'll give you a line. You pay. After all, in Cross River State, there is a ranch. In Cross River State, of the cattle ranch. You know, there are some herders who have been there for more than 50 years. They have their own land that they graze their cattle. It is not something that the government will just sit down and cross its leg and say, okay, in so-so state, create a ranch for them. It's not done like that. If you create a ranch for a herders, you have to create another ranches for farmers.
But
You create for others too.
Can I come in there?
Yes, go ahead.
I still believe that, with due respect to your opinion, yes, what you have said is correct. But I still believe that as part of a national effort to bring about peace, because without peace, we cannot do anything. I still believe that there should be a national policy on grazing. Not that the federal government is going to build ranches for individuals. But I think that for the interest of peace, and given what has already emerged from Plateau, from Benue, from everywhere, I believe that there should be a national policy on ranching. Because, I mean, even for the interests of the owners of the herds, it is more prosperous. It will be more prosperous, more advantageous for them to ranch their cattle. You have better yield of milk. The safety of the herders is enhanced in a ranch, and a lot of economic advantages. So even though it is a private business, I believe that both federal and state should have policies on ranching. The president has cattle. He ranches them. Top farmers in the country ranch their cattle. So why do we allow individuals to roam about, carry guns, and cause mayhem under the guise of herding? Something should be done.
Okay, now let's go. No, we're talking about the spate of killings and the coming elections. Now, let me start with you, Raphael. Now, some Nigerians believe that there is really no cause for alarm. Now, as the elections draw closer, but there are others who are concerned that is the 2019 election under threats from the killings, and where do you think we should lie our attention?
Well, it has been a reoccurrence, Decimal. Whenever elections are coming up, killings will start everywhere. For me, the killings will not detach my interest in the forthcoming elections. And I believe all Nigerian youth, because I am speaking from the angle of being a youth, you understand? Though I'm a journalist, but I'm also a youth. So, and if you take into cognizance the recent passage of not too young to run a bill, it is not accidental. It is not, I won't say it's a mistake by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, to sign that bill. It is not. It takes what God has designed for us. So a lot of people say, if you are talking about politics, leave God behind. No. Even the Holy Book tells us that leadership is given by God. So I want to believe that God who has made that bill to scale through the hurdles and the President has signed it means is calling the youth of Nigeria to be awake. Instead of sleeping and looking for who will give you 100 naira or 200 naira to go and cause mayhem or problem to settle persons because so that you disrupt the process of election. I think it is not going to stop and it's not going to distract this forthcoming election.
Okay. So back to you, Soni, now. So at this point, now, would INEC and the federal government be justified to demand massive security deployments for the elections?
What do we mean by massive security deployments? I mean, such adjective or adverb to qualify the deployment is misplaced, completely unjustified. What do you mean by massive? This is another attempt to weaken the hands of the security. Last weekend or thereabouts, we saw what happened in Rivers State. And it was only for one of the 3 state constituencies, Port Harcourt 3, they couldn't do the election. Why? If they had deployed heavily, according to them, in quote, why are they bringing the militarizing? Hey! Now, you bring unarmed policemen to a place that hoodlums are already armed to the teeth. So it means that hoodlums are more powerful than the Nigerian state actors. And they torpedoed the election. And we went back to the drawing board. Therefore, whatever is needed to protect and defend a free, fair, and credible election in 2009 should and must be done by the police and INEC.
Okay, finally now, because of time, I'll start with Soni and I'll get back to you. Finally, because of time, what are your words to Nigerians and the security agencies in the run-up to the elections?
2 sets of people I would like to advise specifically. Journalists must learn to help the society by reporting fairly, accurately, objectively, in the interests of Nigeria. We should put aside religious, ethnic, political, and tribal sentiments in our reportage to save this country. For the security agencies, if you fail, if you allow your men to be thrown into the ocean during election, if you allow your gun to be taken from you by hoodlums, you have failed Nigeria. Therefore, they should do the best to ensure that at the end of the day, everybody is free to go and vote and return home safe. And then they count the election and give us the result so that we can decide who will rule over us.
Yes, sir. Thank you. How about you?
Yeah, I want to advise the youths and probably the security agencies. The security agencies should understand, or the officers should understand, that if there is no country, they cannot guide or perform their function as a security men. That whatever instruction given to them, if they go to the election, that is the polls, they should behave as civilians, security men, and that they should guide the people because that is their function, is to provide security for the vulnerable people like the women, the youth, and the children. Yes. Also, for the young men, they should know that if you collect money from anybody to sell your conscience, definitely you are selling the future of your children. So whoever is coming to you to give you whatever the thing they are giving you to cause problem ahead of the 2019 election, please resist that because it will cost us a lot. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for coming on the show this week. Well, that's the much you can take here on Inside Story this week. I'm going to see you guys again, same station next week. You have a blessed week.